Plainsmen couldn't get anything across on the top of the second despite having 2 on. So Comfort will have to face Brad Halleck, Aiden Orr, and Coy Carpenter, the 5, 6, 7 batters in a 0-0 ball game. Halleck, the DH, hitting .292 on the year, 10 doubles and 2 home runs. He's got 21 runs batted in. As he will wait on the first pitch of the inning from Anthony Comfort, who started the last frame in a bit of trouble, but worked out of it. There's a strike, 0-1. As Comfort taking advantage of the outside part of the plate against a right-handed hitter. Something the pitchers have figured out with Jordan Balthazar behind the plate, and another one in roughly the same spot, maybe a bit more away, but it's 0-2.
Yeah, and this is kind of a nightmare zone for Brad Halleck. Not only does he have to deal with his weak part, the outside corner being called.
Well, there he smacks one into right center field. It's going to find the grass and take 2 hops before finding the glove of Knowlton. Rounding into second goes Halleck, and he's got a stand-up double to lead off inning number 2. Comfort threw one that worked its way a little bit too far inside, and Halleck roped one for a leadoff double.
Yeah, nice piece of contact for Brad Halleck. That has not been a common thing for him as of late, so I'm sure that's something he'll be happy with. A leadoff double and a loud piece of contact, just taking a pitch the other way.
So now it'll be Aiden Orr. Orr has 18 runs batted in. And just like last inning, there's a man down at second for Comfort to work against. This time, though, with nobody out. First pitch is hit on a line to left center field. Moving back is Hockmer. It's over his head. It'll one hop off the wall. Into third goes Halleck. He's rounding. He will come in to score with no throw. Another double back-to-back for the Pioneers. And quickly, this part of the order has taken a 1-0 lead against Anthony Comfort.
And Aiden Orr has been the bane of the Plainsmen the entire season. Average up over 400 against the Plainsmen. That's his 8th extra base hit. This one to drive in a run to make it 1-0 Pioneers.
So Coy Carpenter hitting in the same situation that Aiden Orr last hit in. He's got a man at second, nobody out, except this time he's got the 1-0 lead, as Comfort having to face back-to-back lefties. His first pitch is hit on a high fly ball in the outfield. Moving over is Knowlton. He settles under it, makes the catch. Initially tagging was Aiden Orr. He makes his way back to second. So Carpenter provides the first out, a fly out in inning number 2.
Yeah, an uncharacteristically big swing from Coy Carpenter. He's not a big guy. He's typically a guy that thrives on putting the ball, when he puts the ball on the ground. That one would have moved a runner over. But perhaps just as much a credit to the deception of Anthony Comfort and get Carpenter to fly into an unproductive first out.
So now it's Cameron Schneider, who of his last 7 days has gone 7 for 14, batting .500 over this past week with 7 runs batted in. On the season, he's got 16 RBIs. He's got a man down at second, 1 down, and a 1-0 Pioneers lead. The bottom of inning number 2. Swinging, there's a line drive over the head of Golbeck to left field. It's caught by Hockmer, and 2 outs. That one right on a line for Nick Hockmer. Had to move in a couple of steps, but made the catch. And so Comfort's got 2 quick pitches that are out for the bottom of the order and Hunter McCullum.
And when this inning is wrapped up, I don't actually think that it would have been that laborious for Comfort. Those are a lot of quick outs, and even the base runners that he's allowed have been fairly early in counts.
And if he can get this man out quick, that would be a huge relief for Anthony Comfort. He said his goals for today were to work about 6 innings and get his way through with a limited pitch count on him and try and potentially work a 7th as he steps off the mound. He doesn't want to have more than about 85 pitches after 6 innings of work. As his last outing, he had to throw quite a lot, well over 100 against the Game Day Angels in that 9-inning complete game. First pitch is a called strike, bit low and away, so it's 0-1 to Hunter McCullum, the bottom part of the order for the Western Nebraska Pioneers, hitting .183, entering Game 2 against the North Platte Plainsmen of 3 that they will play this weekend. The 0-1 pitch is chopped foul towards the Pioneers dugout, and it goes in, so it's 0-2. And if Comfort can get out of this, despite back-to-back leadoff doubles, only allowing 1 run would be a fairly solid inning for the lefty, and he would turn it over to the 9, 1, and 2 hitters for North Platte. He sets and fires the 0-2 home, swinging a ground ball on the infield for Trey Runge. Fields it off of 2 hops. He clutches it onto first, and that is in time to retire him. A closer play than it needed to be as Runge struggled to find it out of his glove, but nevertheless, the inning ends. A run does score, but the Plainsmen, after back-to-back doubles, leave men on base. It's 1-0 heading to the third frame of work here on the West Coast scoreboard.
What were your goals coming into this season?
So last season, I was out with an ankle injury for a little bit more than the majority of the season. Honestly, I just wanted my senior year to be about playing and having fun and like really just getting to know my girls like as best as I can before I leave.
Yeah, and coming into your senior year, how have you seen yourself grow from your first year on campus until now?
Wow, that's like a loaded question. I mean, freshman year, like we were home for COVID. And so it's a lot of personal growth, but it's also just a lot of trust in your team. And it's a lot of understanding what comes with being on a team and the expectations of becoming an upperclassman. And I would honestly just say, like, I've just grown to be more reliant on my teammates and to really just be like, these are my teammates, but they're also my best friends. And like, we are all here together for each other. And it's really just about like letting yourself enjoy the sport and not getting too wrapped up in it. I definitely think that's been the main thing for me.
Yeah, and I want to cycle back to the first thing you said in that response. Your first year was during that COVID year, and this is the last class that had to go through that. What is it like joining a team and trying to find yourself on a team while everyone is home for COVID?
It was hard. It was really hard. We did virtual Zoom lifts in the morning at 6 a.m. and some of the girls were on Western time and whatever. Like it was hard. But it was also just like the best thing about a sport is you get to come to campus with a built-in team and a built-in group of friends who are waiting for you. So it takes away that scary aspect of being a freshman. But having COVID and like only really talking to a few people on the phone, it almost kind of made it a little bit worse. Like you came to campus and was like, okay, well, like I know I have to get along with you and I've talked to you, but I actually haven't been around you. But I will say, like, our coach is really good at recruiting. He recruits the same people from different states and we all just merge into one brain cell by the end of the season. It's honestly really great. Like he has handpicked every single one of my best friends. It's awesome.
Yeah, and speaking on head coach Johan Dolfer, what has it been like getting to play for him the last 3 years?
I have always been a big advocate for talking to your coach. And I will say from freshman year, I mean, even when he was recruiting me, I think he understood that, like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to, if I have a problem, I'm going to say something. If I'm happy, I'm going to say something. Like you will know as a coach where I rely as your player. And he knew what he was getting himself into. And so right off of freshman year, like I was in his office maybe 3 times a week and we would just talk about everything. And majority of the time it wasn't volleyball. It was about my life and school and who I was dating at the time. And like he just wanted to be included. Like he really honestly does care a lot about us and just wants to make sure that we're happy where we are and that we're getting help if we need any. And I mean, over the years, he is really grown awesome. And there's been a few times this season where like he doesn't yell. He doesn't yell at us and he doesn't really make us run. He does, like, he's a very, like, I wouldn't say nice, but like he doesn't get aggressive and crazy like some other coaches will physically do. And me as a player, I play better when a coach yells at me. If I'm making silly mistakes and I'm out in La La Land, like I need someone to be like, fix yourself, let's go. And there's been a few times this season where he's actually done that pretty well. And I had to give him credit. I was like, you know me as a player. Like, and at the end of the game, he would apologize or he would say like, oh, see, like, look, that worked, didn't it? Like kind of like referencing the fact that he knows that certain players need different things. And like, I do have to give him the credit that for me, at least, he has done that.
Yeah, and staying with the coaching staff this year, the team added Cameron Bancroft as an assistant. What has it been like adding her to an already coaching staff with Dolfer on it?
She has been awesome. She has completely opened the door for a lot of us, like to just have another person to talk to and have another person to trust. And like, I get it. Talking to your head coach is really scary. And especially as a woman and a male head coach, it can be very intimidating. But so adding Cameron on this year it was an awesome addition because she's on the younger side, but she's hip and she knows things and she trusts us and we trust her. And I felt like she was a very good pick.
A fairy tale season on a collision course with The Last Stand. Entering the final weekend of the regular season, the Bombers are locked in a battle for the final spot in the Liberty League men's basketball tournament. And while the Bard Raptors would like to end on happily ever after, the Bombers, they've got a story of their own to write. Bombers want to claim the Liberty League playoffs here on Bombers Live. Welcome to the desk. I'm Tobiah Zboray, joined by Justin Antonucci. Justin, the most important weekend for Ithaca basketball starts right now.
Not only just the most important weekend for Ithaca basketball, but in the entire Liberty League. There is going to be playoff madness. Get out your bracketology. A lot of scenarios, a lot of results, but this one on this floor, arguably the most important game all weekend.
Yeah, and coming into this important game on this floor tonight, the Bombers, they've got some much-needed momentum. They had a 93-86 win over Clarkson last Saturday that helped prepare them into where they currently are in the playoff picture and stay afloat in the Liberty League. Justin, that was a game back and forth. Bombers started kind of behind. They led by 7 at the half. Then they kind of fell back, but were able to resurge. What led to this win for Ithaca?
Logan Wendell, and we'll talk about him a little bit later, but overall, just trusting your offense. Logan Wendell was your offense, so what do? You feed him the ball, and especially in a game, no Tristan Wenderston in that last week. Unsure if he's going to play today. I believe he practiced, is warming up, but in terms of that game, they just played great. They trusted Wendell. They played very well defensively. They boxed out. I mean, everything that you could do well late in the stretch, even hitting free throws, this Bomber team did.
And then you look over on the other side of the court. This Bard team, they're coming in riding a high of their own, a senior day victory over Hobart. They took down Hobart 76-59. Elliot Harris, phenomenal on the day. Dropped 19 points, 5 threes, earned Liberty League honor roll mentions. And then you had 5 3-points on the Statesman by him. Lazarus Panagiatunis, 16 points, 4 threes. You got to break out the umbrellas in that game. Bard raining threes, 13 on the day. That marked Bard's first win over Hobart since 2016, a potentially program-defining win.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams, they really like to shoot it, and I'm sure we'll see it. We saw it in last week, the last time these two teams played. We've seen it all season from both. I expect a lot of umbrellas today, Toby.
Yeah, and would you say that, Hobart in that game kind of came out flat-footed, expecting a weaker Bard opponent?
Yes and no, because, Bard has definitely been underlooked throughout the last few years in the Liberty League, but they have really established themselves this year. They're a serious threat. Hey, they're a game above Ithaca, and I think maybe underestimated a bit, 100%. Obviously, Hobart, atop of the Liberty League, but you cannot underestimate any opponent in this league. Every single team is good enough to win on every given day.
Well, I can tell you what, it felt like Ithaca underestimated Bard when they last played back in December. The Bombers traveled up to Annandale on Hudson and dropped a 78-76 overtime grudge match with the Raptors. Justin, it was another game where the Bombers' offense played really well. They were unable to bail out their defense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at this game. This was a 2-point game that ended on a shot, with 2 seconds left from Connor Mellis to give Bard this victory in overtime. And you got good scoring from Wendell. You got good scoring from Wenderston, but what did you not get? You didn't get good defense down the stretch. I mean, this game ended in a 2-point game, but they were down more than 5 points in this overtime period. So I think this team is a little bit better defensively now than they were, a few weeks ago, over a month when these teams two played. This game means so much. They need to be very good defensively if they want to win today.
And do you see any comparisons between that overtime game that the Bombers dropped to Bard and their last two where they've kind of failed down the stretch?
100%. I think it's the same thing. They have failed to make big shots late. Now, that wasn't necessarily the case in the Bard game. They failed to make a few early in that overtime. Late, they actually surged and came back. But yeah, the overall theme is the same. They need to be very, very good, very late down the stretch, and they have not played to that caliber of basketball. They didn't do it 2 games ago. They got it last game from Clark. They got it last game from Wendell. that's the guy you look for. Can he do enough late in the stretch? Can he hit the big threes? I think so personally. Only time will tell.
Well, you're asking questions here about Logan Wendell, but what about the rest of the team? This is a game that's going to be a battle between two teams entrenched in polar opposites. We talked ad nauseum last weekend about how this Bombers team, they lead the conference in offense, but they have a defense that has been, let's say, subpar to say the least. Then you turn over to Bard. They have no worse than the 3rd best defense in the Liberty League, no better than the 7th best offense. However, what are you looking for in this game, Justin?
I'm looking at, can Ithaca, can they make their shots? At the end of the day, this Bard defense isn't really good, and listen, it's good, and it's the 3rd best in the Liberty League, and I don't want to discredit it, but it's not at that elite level that they saw just 2 games ago. They just need to hit their shots. If they're hitting at a high rate, if they're getting offensive rebounds, Ithaca's number 1. They don't get a ton of offensive rebounds, but if they're hitting their shots, I don't think Bard necessarily has the scoring to keep up with Ithaca, especially if Cabral and Wennerson are playing.
Yeah, absolutely. The loss of Evan Cabral, Tristan Wennerson potentially for this game could really impact that Bombers defense that we saw last weekend, just unable to make the big plays at certain times.